Hi, I'm Doug Downey here with Community Insights, and I'm with Wendy Timpano, the General Manager for the CDC. Welcome, Wendy. Let's start with, what does CDC stand for?
CDC is the Community Development Corporation. We do lots in the community with respect to business support.
So is CDC, is it just a local initiative? Maybe explain a little bit of how it fits into the bigger picture.
Sure. We operate the Community Futures Program. There are 69 of us across the province and 261 across Canada. So it is a national program. Our office here operates locally, so we cover Ontario's Lake Country.
And we're downtown Orillia right now. We're in the CDC headquarters, I guess we'll call it. There's offices. We can see the boardroom behind us and people working and that sort of thing. It's where's the next closest CDC?
We operate in rural communities across Canada. So the next one, the closest one would be in Midland. We also have one in Nottawasaga, in Alliston. It's called Nottawasaga Futures. There's one in Collingwood, so across the province and Canada.
So some people watching the show will know a lot of acronyms. They'll know the CFDC.
Yes.
Is that the same thing?
Yeah. So when I refer to Community Futures Program, a lot of offices will refer to themselves as a Community Futures Development Corporation.
Okay. And the other acronym, BDC, is connected somehow, or is it?
Well, BDC is the Business Development Bank of Canada, and we have a great relationship with them. We're not connected in that the programs are the same, although we both do similar things when it comes to financing local businesses.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So part of what you do on a day-to-day, there's all sorts of different things going on at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of things on the go. We finance businesses. We offer business coaching. We also work on a number of community economic development projects and offer professional development and training for both businesses and their employees.
So what kind of help? Financial then, let's start with that. So financial help to small businesses, what does that look like, or what's the process for that?
So we can provide loans of generally up to $250,000, although we can access programs that offer lending up to $350,000. We also, we work with businesses and try to understand their needs. We do complementary lending with the banks, so work very well in partnership with them to meet the client's needs. The unique thing about the CDC and the Community Futures Program is that we can offer some flexibility in our lending so that it does meet that client's needs. It could be, flexibility in the repayment terms, seasonal businesses, that sort of thing. And we also do a number of different targeted lending programs that meet the needs or identified different needs in the community.
So I'll back us up a little bit. A small business, what is a small business? How do you classify, how do you be qualified as a small business? You have to be incorporated. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So small business really can be anything from somebody who just has an idea, just getting started, we actually we'll meet with any business with any number of employees. Just that generally in rural communities, we are largely made up of small businesses. So that's why we often use the term small business.
So there was one story in the paper about, I think it's public we can talk about, but a young fellow who was creating his own small business. So it's not even age restricted.
No, absolutely not age restricted. Yeah, we've had clients who are 12 years old and clients who are in their 90s. So there's no age restriction at all.
Yeah. So if somebody's interested, normally they would go. I think they would normally go to whatever bank they bank at and say, "I'm starting this business, or I have this business. How can you help me?" And so, how do they end up here, or what's the difference?
Oftentimes a bank will strictly be a lender when it comes to business support, and they'll refer clients over here often for us to help them get their business registered, to help them do their business planning, to help them develop a marketing plan. whether they're starting or whether they're expanding, we can assist them with those supports as well as connections into the community, various funding supports and other resource supports as well, connections. You know, there's lots that goes into the planning and development of a business, and banks they assist with one piece of that.
Right. So you mentioned you partner with the bank sometimes, like co-lending or something that the bank's comfortable to a certain level, but then you're more flexible to help with the rest. Is that?
Yeah, that's definitely one scenario that we've seen. One of our most recent partnerships is with BDC. You mentioned BDC earlier, Business Development Bank of Canada, and we have a targeted lending program around real estate. So companies who are looking at purchasing a building, we can lend up to $500,000 and not require a down payment, which is pretty unique for a small business.
And for a commercial building or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is limited to commercial. We serve strictly businesses.
Yeah. So can we talk about some of the success stories? Or there's some people who, and only ones that have said that we can use their names, otherwise we wouldn't be talking about them.
We have a number of clients who are happy to allow us to share their story. Going with Gibb, Brian Gibb is a great example of a startup business. A number of years ago he was a startup business, but he's established himself with hundreds of clients now in the community. And we had the opportunity to work with him and help that business grow.
So what, in terms of, we talked financial, but business plans, like you actually help them draft the plan, you review the plan?
Yeah, we have templates available for business planning. So depending on the client's needs, some clients come in and they're very comfortable with developing their own and writing their own business plan. We won't physically write the plan for them, but we can help advise them throughout the process, or they can simply bring in a completed plan and have us review it and offer that third party, sort of be a sounding board for them to develop that.
And what does that kind of thing cost, or what's the arrangement for that?
Our services are free of charge, so we don't charge anything for that consultation. We're available to the community. We're fortunate enough to be funded by the federal government for our operations, which allows us to provide that service.
So there's in terms of getting the help, people can come in and sort of test ideas a little bit. It must be tough because when somebody comes in with a small business idea, sometimes it's a really good idea, but the fundamentals aren't there. How do you sort of help them help themselves?
We're fairly connected in the community, I would say. So there's lots of ways that we can help clients ask questions of themselves to ensure that what they're doing is not only the right thing for them personally, but also a viable business idea and opportunity.
Yeah. So you talked about connections. I want to come back to some other success stories in a bit, but in terms of connections, what are some of the linkages that the CDC has with other groups?
We have very strong partnerships with our local municipal economic development officers, our local employment resource agencies, chambers of commerce. We have 3 in the area. Lots of great connections, but not only that, we have a team of volunteers who are incredibly well connected and well experienced in business, who actually drive this organization as a not-for-profit. They play a key role. So
let's talk about the structure then. So where do the volunteers fit in, or what's the structure of how you operate here?
Sure. Yeah. So we have a board of directors that, again, as I said before, are volunteers. We have subcommittees, one that reviews all of our loan applications, and we have another committee who helps to direct and manage the community economic development projects we're involved in the community. Another committee actually helps us with clients who need additional assistance. And we also have a number of mentors who, I'm afraid I'm going to leave something out because we have so many great people behind the organization. But mentors who help our clients, on a monthly basis or even more sometimes, just work through what they're dealing with at the time.
So how many volunteers do you? So that's all board structures. You have the board and the subcommittees.
Yes.
There must be quite a few people actually at the end of the day engaged in this.
Yeah, we have continuously, we have about 30 volunteers in addition to the 5 staff members that operate, or that work day to day in the organization. But in addition to those 30 volunteers, we have project volunteers as well that assist us. So, last year we did a business retention and expansion survey. At that time, we had an additional 35 volunteers.
Wow, that is a lot of people. Where do you find everybody? Or do they find you, or how does that come to be?
We have a great community.
Yeah.
I really believe, we have fantastic people in the community who want to give their time, and we have some great people who have really great experience, so they're willing to give that back and contribute. So through our partners, through just networking in the community, that's how we find them.
So I want to go down that next level and go back to the lending for a moment. Somebody comes in and they say, I have an idea, I need some funding for it. What's the process they can expect?
Yeah, first of all, they'll meet with one of our staff members. If they specifically say they want financing, oftentimes they'll meet with our lending officer, Susan Stacy, and she'll walk through the process with them in terms of submitting an initial overall or sort of overview of their application. Then it can move to a second stage, and we decide on the with our volunteers, we decide on...
It goes to the committee, or it goes...
Yeah.
That's really where it goes next.
Yeah, so the lending committee reviews all of our loan applications, and they're, like I said before, they're well experienced to do so. They bring a great perspective and background and experience.
Now, I know some people, it really is a great place, and it's a real community. How do you deal with the person who comes in and says, look, I think I want to do something, but I'm worried about my neighbors knowing what I'm doing? Or how do you deal with confidentiality? Maybe address that if you can.
Sure. We have every client meeting is kept confidential, including those that go before the committee. That's really important to us. I mentioned Brian Gibb earlier, but he had given us permission to share his story, right, as other clients do as well. But absolutely, everything is kept confidential unless the client requests or says that they'd like for us to promote something or tell people.
So people can be confident all the way through the system that whether they're turned down or accepted or whatever happens, it stays in the files.
It's absolutely kept confidential.
Yeah. Is there any, because you're gathering information on different industries and that kind of thing, is there any formal linkages with other lending institutions or anything like that? Or is it, how do you gather that kind of information for risk level and that kind of thing?
When you say risk level, do you mean like credit history type
that
information?
Kind of stuff.
So when it comes to that, we operate very similar to the bank. So we'll do credit checks on applicants, and that is part of our process, although it doesn't form the entire part of our process, because we like to look at clients' potential viability. We look at their business plans when we consider financing them. So we take a very global approach in our review of a client, as opposed to just credit history or credit score.
Right. So you look at background and experience and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about some programming that CDC puts on. We'll talk about what it is and talk about the price and how people find it and that kind of thing. So sure. You do some really neat seminars, workshops.
Yeah, we have a few coming up actually. One next week on succession and transition planning. One in February. It's February 13th, and that one's on Bill 148. Just helping employers understand the changes to the legislation. Also, we have March 22nd. That one's going to be almost a full-day event on government information, resources, funding opportunities, that sort of thing. We do several of them throughout the year, every year.
So the professional development part is a whole wing of what the CDC does. I guess I'm trying to tease out how people access it, or how do they find out what's a good fit for them?
So our website, which is www.orilliacdc.com, is a great resource for the information on the upcoming events. We also encourage clients to sign up for our e-newsletter. You can do that right on the website, and that way they get all of the upcoming events and information and all of the program information that we have available. As clients meet with us, we tell them and we understand what they need. We can then also recommend to them what might be valuable for them.
So if somebody's thinking about incorporating, there's a seminar coming up at some point, you plug them into that, obviously.
Yeah.
So, expensive to go to them?
It's very reasonable. Again, we have we have some subsidies provided through our partners, and it allows us to keep the costs way down. The most that generally anybody would spend on a ticket would be $55 to attend, and that's really just to cover the costs of a speaker, an external speaker that we might have to bring in. But many of them are free, so I'd encourage anybody to check out the website, but for sure very reasonable in terms of cost.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the ones that you mentioned. So on the 31st of January, succession and transition training. What kinds of things would somebody hear? Who's a good fit for that kind of seminar?
That's an interesting topic because a lot of people think that succession planning, you should be planning for that when you're about to retire or transition out of your business. But the reality is that any business, even during startup phase, should be thinking about what that exit plan might look like. And the reason being is, structure of the business, and that's the kind of stuff you do right up front. So it really is for just about any business owner. But more specifically, if I had to really narrow it down, it would probably be those business owners who are looking at transitioning out of their business over the next 5 to 7 years. Or less, I guess. Yeah. Also, it will be valuable information for anybody looking to purchase a business as well, so that they understand that process of transition from that perspective as well. Yeah.
So you get people who are coming in and saying, I'm thinking about selling my business, and now I want to start structuring it. What kind of information will they get? What kind of perspective?
So we have on the panel, we have a lawyer, we have an accountant, a tax accountant, we have a business owner who's been through the purchase and sale of a business, and also a financial planner. So those are the very specific areas that we will be focusing on for the people at the event.
Okay, and the next one, the Bill 148, that's the labor law one.
Yes.
That's all the new changes for people to get up to speed on what they can and can't do and should and shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, There's a lot of focus on the minimum wage.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more. There's so much more to know about the changes that have come out, and it's important that business owners are aware of those changes, so that they're updating policies and procedures and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So again, they can see it on the website, and maybe we'll get it up on the screen as we're talking. We'll get it edited in. People can find it. I want to go back to mentoring that you had mentioned, because mentoring is a broad term, but what happens in a mentorship?
So we have mentorship programs, 2 of them running right now, 2 groups. One is for youth, that would be 30 and younger. We also have another group of mentees who come in who have established businesses, but are still young, meaning 2 or 3 years old. And the needs of both of those groups can be a little bit different, but we bring them together on a monthly basis, and they have the opportunity to not only do peer networking within the mentorship program, but have access to a set of mentors who can address various topics for that month. So.
Just everything from marketing to
finances to employees, everything that has anything to do.
So is the mentoring, because there are different models, how structured is it? Or can people come to it with what they perceive their own needs to be? Is it how programmed is it?
Yeah, well, we actually have a very open dialogue with the mentees, always trying to understand what their needs are, and each group is different, so we do try to change the topics to meet the needs of the group. It's a small group, so generally, it could be anywhere from 3 people, mentees, in the meeting to 10 mentees in the meeting. And we start out with theming the month, so if this month is marketing, but each of the mentees absolutely comes to the table with their own experience and their own needs, perhaps based on that topic. But we also look to them to tell us what topics they want included in the sessions.
And again, cost for that, or?
So very minimal. For the youth program, it's currently free as a drop-in for them, and then for the other program, it's $175 for a full year, which includes dinner every meeting. So essentially, it's just covering the costs of their meal.
Yeah.
So it's a great value.
And learning stuff. So I'm going to jump over because I know you do have great reach in the community through other organizations. I'll start with some people wouldn't necessarily go to, but like doctor recruitment. The CDC's been involved with that for quite a long time.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, those we sit on a number of committees throughout the community, and doctor recruitment is a great example because there is and can be huge economic impact to our community when it comes to recruiting doctors. But it also, there's a huge community need as well associated, and so we focus on both, and we look to both to ensure that we're creating quality of life in the community, but also trying to improve the economics and viability of the community.
So the CDC has done some baseline studies. You're always doing surveys and different poking and prodding to see what the needs are. Can you talk about some of the current ones?
Sure. So, last year we completed a business retention and expansion survey, and that was where we interviewed 160 local businesses, sat with them for full hour, sometimes more, talking about the needs and wants in the community. So we have some great information on that, which is public information that we're happy to share with anybody interested. But we've also been working on some tourism asset mapping in the community, trying to understand the tourism sector, what we have available, where are the gaps, and then also identifying tourism investment opportunities in the community. So we have again some information available with respect to that as well.
So what like a tourism investment opportunity, that's somebody coming in that says, I want to open something, or?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, it could be somebody saying, hey, I'm really interested in, the trails system in this community. Is there a business opportunity that could relate to that and support that kind of activity in the community? Or, it could also be something along the lines of spas, or health and wellness was identified as an opportunity in this community as well. So those kinds of opportunities have been identified, and now it's up to us as a community and economic development officers to work with those business investors.
Yeah, so how you connect into the EDCs and the different municipalities? Mm-hmm. I think you have a roundtable effectively of all those individuals to share information. So this space is very much the community hub for EDC. Does that make sense? Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, we have, it's not a formal working group, but it's absolutely a working group, and I think the CDC offers a unique perspective and ability to, as a regional organization, to be able to pull all of those people together into a room and really discuss what could be beneficial for our region, meaning Ontario's Lake Country.
And once a year there's an event Casino-Rama sponsors and hosts. Can we talk a little bit about the last one? It was the speaker was fascinating.
Yeah, highly successful. Again, that was actually tourism related, I guess you could say, in terms of drawing visitors in and marketing your business, and some great information about successfully marketing. But that event drew over 200 people. It was a fantastic opportunity for those businesses to network and to really get some great information. At that event, we also have, which is one of the highlights every single year, we have local success stories, and they have about 7 minutes to get up and tell their story, and the crowd loves it. It's just really fun to hear what's happening locally with some of these local organizations and businesses.
Wow. And there's a social media, so you're learning stuff all the time, probably, what's happening next. So maybe give us a bit of what you learned at some of that and what you think's coming.
With respect to social media?
Yeah.
Social media is always changing. We're actually lucky to have a staff member, Sam, here, who does a lot of that for us. And I think about Facebook, for instance, has just recently changed their rules in terms of what will pop up in your feed, and that I think it seems to be ever changing, but that's something that businesses are going to need to be aware of, because pages are not going to pop up. It's not going to be as valuable unless they start to create two-way conversation on their Facebook pages. So I'd be happy to talk to anybody else more in depth about what's coming there if they're interested.
But it's some of that where you're paying attention to that stuff, or the office is paying attention to that stuff. You can pass it on to businesses that are, quite frankly, too busy doing their job to stay current with everything.
It's difficult. It's difficult to stay current with that. It's difficult to stay current with legislative changes, health and safety changes, employment-related changes, and I would encourage people to use us as a resource. Absolutely.
Now, you've changed your practice of your annual general meeting. Maybe I'll let you address that, and that's.
In terms of our report to the community, and we traditionally have held, we've been in the community now for over 33 years. We're coming up on 34 years, and traditionally we've held an annual event where we invite partners and the community to come out and hear about what we've accomplished over the last year for them, essentially. The last couple of years we've actually created a video instead, and have found that to be incredibly successful in terms of the views, the people who actually access that video and see it, versus the number of people who come to the one-time event. And the video has longevity. It's nice to be able to share that at different events we go to.
And it gets heard more, it gets seen more. So that is kind of the point of reporting to the community.
Exactly.
There's another program that we haven't touched on yet. We talked about lending, we've talked about supporting businesses through programs, but the grants program as well happens once a year.
Yes.
Maybe I'll ask you to address that too.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for businesses to build capacity in their organizations. That's what the fund is all about. We have $20,000 to grant to local businesses and organizations. In fact, it's open to nonprofits or for-profits. And we do that in the fall. Applications come out in August. Again, if you're on our e-newsletter list, you'll get all of the announcements on it. But really, we're looking for people to tell us, or apply maybe anywhere from $500 to $3,000 is sort of generally the range, and apply for that money to do something to expand their business. Maybe it's reach different markets, expand their equipment so that they can actually do something different with their business. There's lots of great creative ideas that we see come in for that.
And that's a bit of an insight into trends on what people perceive their needs to be, whether it be tools or computers or whatever that is.
Yeah, we do. It is interesting when we get to get that insight from each of the businesses as they apply for what they see as really relevant and necessary in their businesses.
Now, to apply for those grants, do you have to have some connection with the CDC previously, or is it open to everybody?
It's open to everybody and anybody in Ontario's Lake Country. So no need to have had any contact with us previously.
That may be the first point of contact.
It could be, yeah. Well, then they might learn about all of our other programs and services, which is great.
So where do you see then the community going next in terms, or I should say the CDC in engagement with the community in terms of the mandate? Is things are growing? Do you think? Are they? Where's the economy at in this area?
Things are growing. I think there's lots of opportunity for businesses. The idea of succession planning is a big one right now for us. We've been talking a lot about it. We're looking at some programming that will help us to match, in fact, people who are looking, perhaps young people, perhaps not young people, but looking to buy businesses. We know that the population is aging. We have a lot of business owners who will be looking to retire in the next 3 to 10 years, and we'd love for those businesses to stay open, for those people who are employed there to stay employed, and if there's any way we can help with that, we'd like to be part of that.
I just want to touch on the space that we're in. It's on Peter Street in the Arts District.
Yes.
22 Peter? Is that
22 Peter
22 Peter.
Street South, yeah.
Okay, so people are welcome to come in, but you're also partnering with Starry Nights. We see some paintings around. You partner with the Chambers, so you do business after 5s. People can come in and see the space a little bit without feeling like they're coming in for an appointment.
Yeah, we welcome walk-ins. We would love for people to come in. If they're interested in seeing the artwork around, we can tour them around the office. But you also don't need an appointment to just drop in. I mean, you can come in and we can help you as best we can on the spot, and then that might lead to an appointment. But we welcome the visitors.
That's great. Well, thank you. thanks for all that information. There's quite a bit to digest. And thanks for watching. We'll talk to you again next week.